Hello, everyone, and welcome back to No Dick Pics Podcast, episode 13. My name is Max.
I'm Christina.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah, we took a little bit of a break just to kind of figure out what was going on between us and all that. So
Marinate everything.
yeah, yeah. So how are we? What would you say?
I think we're in a good place,
I agree. Yeah.
and I'm not hungover or high, just to let you guys know.
No, he's going through some shit.
My left eye is like really swollen. I guess I can show it, right?
You can. Ooh, look at that.
I wanted a break, and she just,
Yeah, I just
no,
knocked him out. I'm like, you know what?
I don't know. Some sort of infection, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Or I mean, that's the story we can go with.
Huh?
I didn't punch you in the face. Break up with me? Ooh,
It's not the summer of Georgia I was expecting.
no, no, not yet. But yeah, we're doing good. I think honestly, I think we're doing better than we were before. Like, we spend more time together, we talk more, I don't know, feel
How
like we're
has
good.
the being single on your end with
Oh,
all the
wow.
fun, all the apps and stuff. I know last when we were talking last, you showed me your phone and how many people were after you.
Yeah. I mentioned softball guy a little bit because I had been talking to him already.
Yeah,
We
you seemed like you were
started
kind of
recording.
into him.
We connected really well through the app and text, and we were having really good conversations. And then we went out on Sunday, and we are no longer talking. So that's how that went. Um, it's not that we're not talking, we're just not talking. Like, we haven't blocked each other, unfriended each other or anything, we're just not
So
talking.
after the date, no one reached out to anybody.
Nope, nope. So, we had this really, like, good connection going into it, and then we meet up, and he gives me, like, a really solid hug, like, it was a good hug, like, he's like, "I'm so excited to see you," and that was it. That was the most affection for, like, the rest of the date. So we go to Strawberry Fest, and we're walking around, and it was kinda like walking around with, like, a coworker, like, there was just, not nothing, and, it was a little awkward, the conversation was a little hard sometimes, it was just, like, the connection wasn't there in person, and, it is what it is, like, he's a nice guy, nothing against him, it just wasn't there. Yeah, so, it wasn't a love match. Nice enough guy, but just not for me. So and then I had a date on Friday too, and this guy, I knew I wasn't gonna meet. He was in that group that I'm not supposed to talk about. It's like a dating like, women talk about guys they could be dating, just as, like, a safety thing. So, this guy was posted there, and I had matched with him when I matched with you back in January. And when I went back into the app, he was still there, his conversation was still there. And so he saw that I was green again after, 5 months, and he was like, "Hey, what's up?" So, I'm like, "I know this guy. I saw him in that group." So he ghosts people, he doesn't actually meet anyone. And this one girl he talked to for, like, 2 months, his name's Rob, he's 44, lives in Berwyn, just saying. Is it Berwyn? I think it's Berwyn.
That's
Um,
where some of my exes are.
yeah. So,
Two.
he's a teacher. If anyone matches with him and has questions, just shoot me a DM. I'll tell you what I know, which is not much,
So
but
maybe he just likes to kind of like start the conversation and then
yeah.
and then
And it
just kind
wasn't
of.
like a sexual conversation. It wasn't flirty. It was just like a normal getting to know you, like anyone you would meet. It wasn't necessarily like a date thing. It was just like talking about work and talking about things that we like and like nothing deep. But we had like a pretty good conversation. And I was like, this is I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's not gonna show up because he doesn't show up to any of these other people, but I'm like, "This will be a fun experiment." I wasn't into him, not really interested in dating him, but I was like, "I'm just curious if he shows up," just based on this post and what everyone else said. So we're talking, he's making, like, real plans with me, and, the night before, he's like, "What time do you get off of work?" And I told him, he's like, "Okay, cool. I'll let you know, what place I pick." And then the next morning, I check my messages to see if he's responded yet, and he's gone. He had unmatched the day of. I'm like, "Ah, that's his move."
It's a trend.
Yeah,
He does this.
mhm. So I wasn't into him, didn't really care.
Maybe he
Um,
got burned by a woman, and so this is his like scorn, like this is
yeah,
his retaliation.
could be.
I'm gonna get them. I don't know, but I mean, you hear about this a lot. Like people, you know, I thought in the beginning, I thought I was a chaser, which I enjoyed the chase, like the first few weeks, and
Mhm.
then you kind of get bored and kind of, you know,
Yeah. I was only talking to him for a couple days. It wasn't even that much. So, I didn't have high expectations. I wasn't invested. I don't think I would have dated him, like, if I was interested. So, he just wasn't my vibe. But, yeah, the problem with what he does, and the reason I'm calling him out is because there are girls in this group, and granted, you shouldn't get too emotionally attached to anyone that you haven't met. So, like, this is a lesson for people who get, like, a little bit too attached before they actually talk to someone or meet them. But, there are girls in this group who were really hurt. Like, they were like, "What did I do wrong?" I'm like, "It's not you. He's a psycho." So, that's just mean, and especially for, like, parents, like, single moms who have to arrange a sitter or make plans to switch days with their, ex or something to make this date happen. Like, it takes planning, it takes, like, forethought, it takes money, it takes all this stuff to arrange a date, and for him to do this to people is really fucked up.
yeah,
So, and I don't know why he does it. I don't know what he gets out of it because, like, some people are like, "Oh, maybe he's just likes to flirt with people." We weren't flirting. There was nothing flirtatious about it. It was just like a good conversation. So I don't know what he's getting out of it. But it's a little fucked up. It's not the worst thing a guy could do. It's stupid, but it's just like it's shitty, and it seems like it's a thing
but
that he does.
you put time and effort into it, and
Mhm.
you don't want to.
Yeah,
You
you
feel
don't wanna
like
waste
you
your time.
hopefully it's going towards something good. I
Right.
also think at that point, I think you were excited about softball on Sunday,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
but I
wasn't into
also
Rob at all.
saw you also talked about there was kind of how it kind of the last few days before your date, it kind of like the communication kind of wasn't as
Yeah.
strong, and
So
some
with
things were
softball,
popping up
the
for you.
the last few days, he wasn't as chatty as he had been, but he was also busy, and so was I. So, like, I didn't put too much thought into it, but, um, I got some red flags. I got some during our good conversations even, it kinda felt like he was saying all the right things, and so he's either the best guy ever or he's full of shit. He just knows what people wanna hear. So, I don't know. I don't know which one it is. I just know that we didn't click in person the same way we did through text, so I that was something that flagged for me. I'm like, "He has all the right answers." Like, that's either great or he's lying, so
One thing that stood out for me when you would talk about him is the amount of times he tried to have you come over to his house.
yes.
And to me, I mean, I've never asked that. I mean, I've asked for a first date at my place that I would cook for
Mhm.
someone, and sometimes people are uncomfortable. But I mean, if I've never met the person, I wouldn't be asking them over. But
Yeah.
maybe that's his thing. And
I mean
also, coming you're recently divorced and just coming off of a breakup.
mhm.
Like sometimes maybe people think, oh, she's vulnerable. Maybe I can,
Yeah.
take advantage of it. I don't know if I'm not saying. I'm just
Right.
saying that's how a lot of people are. If you're coming off of a breakup,
It's
oh,
totally
she's,
possible.
maybe she's down. She can come over, and maybe that wasn't his intention. He just wanted to meet you. But I think there's other ways of kind of doing that rather than like, hey, I'm free tonight. Why don't you stop by?
Yeah. Yeah. There were a few times he had asked me to come over, like, his game got canceled because softball guy plays softball, duh. But, like, he got rained out, he's like, "Hey, you should come out tonight," and I'm like, "Let's wait for our date." Like, I'm not gonna come over before we meet on our date. That's a rule I have, like, I don't go over to
Like
people's
something he
houses.
could have done was like, "Hey, I have time tonight. You want to like, go for a walk or
Yeah.
get coffee or
Yeah.
even get a drink or
And he
just
did the
something
3rd time
small."
he did say that. The 3rd time he's like, "Oh, no, 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 I meant like a pre-date date." I'm like,
Well, I think at that point
Sure."
you shot him down twice. He wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what
There's
his
more
intentions
fish out
were.
there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, here's the thing about that. This didn't like, I'm not upset about this. I did not get overly invested in this. I didn't get my hopes up. I was being very intentional with this. I have that, saying from Tanya Rad that, I'm open to the possibility, not attached to the outcome. And that's, like, something I keep saying to myself. So, I was looking forward to getting to know him, and I thought we had a good, connection at first, but I wasn't attached to it. Like, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. That's cool, whatever. So, I think that's why I'm not, like, heartbroken. I don't really care. So, like, at the end of the date, I thought, well, first, we leave the festival, and, I'm like, "Let's go get a drink somewhere, like, not here. Let's just go somewhere away from here." So we go to the sports bar, and we get a drink, and we're having a okay conver it was a little bit forced, a little bit dragging, but, the waitress comes around, she's like, "You guys want another round?" He's like, "No, I'll take the check." I'm like, "Hmm, okay, this guy
Maybe he was
is."
feeling it too.
Yeah, I'm like, "He's not feeling this either. This is not a good date." Not a bad date, it's just, like, something we just weren't clicking. So,
It goes back to my theory. When you meet someone, you like to me, it's right away. I know it happens differently. To
yeah,
me, right away, I know if there's a connection or not. If there's
yeah,
not a connection there, I'm like, I'll finish the date, and then
mhm.
I'm usually,
Kinda
well,
what we were doing.
I'll be, I won't, I'll at least text her back like, hey, I had a good time. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, I just don't think it's working out. But a lot of times I'll be like, hey, you know, if you want to do this again, just give me a heads up and something. And then if she's not feeling it either, we both kind of like you just don't hear from each other, and it just
Right,
kind of fizzles.
yeah.
But I'm shocked that there was like no communication afterward.
None. So, we get back to his apartment because we met in the parking lot. I didn't go into his apartment, we just met in the parking lot of his complex, and he just, like, parked right next to me, and before he could even say anything, I'm like, "This is so nice." Like, I'm trying to be like, "I'm not gonna go upstairs, so I'm gonna end this right now." Be like, "Oh, thanks so much. I had a great time." "Sure." You know? And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do this again." And then he kisses me. Like, I'm thinking this dude isn't having a good time either, but then he, like, fully kisses me, and I was shocked. Like, I couldn't believe that, like, that's where this was going, and so, he was like, "Yeah, maybe next time you'll come over." And I'm like, "Eh." I'm like, "Okay." And when I tell you this story, you're like, "Oh, you made a face." And I'm like, "I don't know that I
You had
did."
to, because if you weren't into it, and then he kissed you, and it's like, hey, we can maybe you can come over.
Yeah,
You probably made a face. You don't realize it. You're probably just like the
I don't
what
know
the
what I
fuck
did.
face.
I was surprised. I was shocked by it because I did not think he was having a good time. I did not think he was gonna say, "Let's do this again." But I don't know. I was like, "Sure, whatever." And
But the fact
then
that he didn't reach back out to you, I think
no,
yeah,
I think I might have made a face. But I leave and I have not heard from him since. I haven't texted him. He hasn't texted me. Like, no hard feelings, but like,
yeah,
whatever.
life goes on.
Yeah. So it was fine. Not a love match, which is fine. Um, I don't know that I'm looking for that right now. I don't think I'm ready. I joined apps because you joined apps. So I wasn't gonna do that. And I was like, you know what? I was mad at you. I'm like, watch me date. You know? And so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go find someone, which I did. And I just don't want to do like I went through a bunch of profiles like earlier this week and I'm just like, I don't like anyone. And there are people that I would have matched with before, and I'm just like, I hate them all. Like, I don't wanna talk to any of these dudes. So, I just don't think I wanna date. Like, I think I'm just not into it. Like, I'm not in the mood for that bullshit right now. Like, I don't wanna have more stories. Like,
Yeah,
I know I'm
sometimes you
gonna
need a
have more.
break. Like I'm not really
Yeah,
dating. I'm like I'm on the apps, but it's not really. You know,
yeah.
it's
I
just
just
kind of.
don't need to build any more character right now. I've got some solid character. I just don't need any more
It takes a
experiences.
lot of time and effort
It
too,
does.
and
It does.
emotionally takes. Like even though you don't know the person and stuff, like if you're
Mhm.
talking to someone and you're like, oh, this is nice, and then the minute like that person unmatches you, even though like you never knew them, it still kind of takes like, oh, that sucks. I thought
Yeah.
and then
Especially
you
when you take
start
the
getting
time. Yeah.
frustrated. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
I'm
then
not
you get
heartbroken about
then
either.
you get a bot talking to you and you're like, "What the
Right.
fuck?"
Yeah, I'm not heartbroken about either experience, I'm fine, like, I don't care, it's cool, like, I wasn't really ready to talk to anyone or date anyone anyway, so it worked out for the best, but how did you feel? And I know we talked about this last time on the last
I
podcast,
was
and
good
you're like,
with
"I'm
it in the
cool with it, I'm
beginning.
cool with it." Yeah,
I was good with it in the beginning, and then probably last week you were talking more and more about softball. And it was kind of hitting me like, oh shit, yeah, this is real. So kind of that torn. Like I wanted it to work for you, I
right.
because I want you happy. But then part of me is like, ooh, because I mean, we were together for 5 months, and
Yeah,
so yeah, kind of mixed emotions. And that's how I am too with like talking to people and stuff, I'm just like, am I really ready? Like,
Right.
I think I just needed a break, but a break of like everything, just to kind of like regroup and just kind of, and yeah, you just don't feel like you want to. I don't know. It's just it's a lot of work.
It is.
So,
It's so much work, and, like, I don't know that I care enough to do
and
it right now.
I get so confused by these apps. This is so off topic. It is. It's an app. My
Yeah.
favorite is like you're going through these app profiles, and there's a woman that like show like her first picture, she's in like a bathing suit. Her second picture, she's got like this sexy gym selfie. Maybe she might even have like a provocative, showing a little boob.
Mhm.
And then it's like, I'm not looking for a one night stand. I want a long term relationship. And then in my mind, it's like, wait, but you're showing
Right.
yourself. So I feel like, there's some there. Later, our guests Dan and Rachel, they he had an interesting way of. I think they both had an interesting way of putting what they're looking for in the dating profile.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that's pretty cool that people don't
Yeah.
talk about. But
Well, and
we'll
the
get
way
into.
that you present yourself makes a big difference in the type of people that respond to you and the way people respond to you, 'cause I get gross messages no matter what, but I don't have anything provocative because I don't want to. No, that's not the attention I'm trying to get. So, like, I don't have anything that's, like, too revealing, like, I think I have one, like, kinda cleavagey thing because
And men aren't allowed to
I
do
can't help
gym
it.
selfies, but women, that's all they do. And I like the gym selfie on the women. I think I like
Yeah.
it. And I know what it does. It shows them off, but that's one
Yeah.
of the no-nos, right? They say a guy holding a fish, a guy wearing sunglasses, group photos,
All
and
you
gym
need is
pics.
a fish right now, and
Hmm?
you're a walking red flag
Yeah.
with your hood and yeah, glasses,
But
just
it's
a
like, I'm
fish.
not going to take a picture of this and then send it. I do have a picture of myself in a hot tub with sunglasses on.
Yeah.
I don't, no, I don't, because it was at night. That would have been weird.
You like sunglasses at night, especially right now.
Yeah, so I don't look like Chunk from Goonies. Hey, you guys.
It's not as bad as you think. I mean, it's not great, but it's not as bad as you think.
They're probably like, "Man, she really hit him. She abuses
I
him."
did. I was like, "Don't break up with me." Um,
But
do
I'm
you wanna
excited about talking with Dan and Rachel
Yeah,
because it's
it's a good
yeah,
so we are gonna make this a two-part episode because it went pretty long, but I listened to it back. I can't cut anything.
and
It's too
plus we got
good.
the holidays coming up
Yeah. Yeah, so we are taking this next week off, but we will have an
for
episode.
America.
Yeah, we have an episode coming out this week and next week because 'cause we're gonna do two-parter. So not a new episode, although it's new to you guys. We're not gonna record another one until after the holiday. But do you wanna talk about the dream you had before my date?
Yeah. So before, like, I knew she had a date on Sunday, so I was like, "Hey, you wanna hang out Saturday and we'll go to dinner and something." And so we went to dinner and stuff, and I told her, I was like, "Actually, it's funny because the night before I was a big Different World fan. The show Different World was a spinoff of the Cosby, and I love that show. Like, I always wanted, if there was a college named Hillman, I wanted to go. And everyone knows the story with Dwayne Wayne and Whitley and how they got together. And so I reimagined that I was Dwayne Wayne and you were Whitley, and he crashes the wedding. But in Different World, he gets her. But then, of
Mhm.
course, in my dream, which is messed up, I try to stop the wedding, and I get beat up by all the like the ushers and stuff, which is kind of funny. But I put myself in that, and I was like, whoa, maybe, because then I
Yeah,
was thinking to myself, am I having second thoughts of this? But I always would joke, like, I would realize I made a mistake, like, once you decide to get married, which is
yeah.
kind of funny, but I thought that was interesting.
What do you think that means? Like,
I don't know,
I'm not trying to make things
I
weird.
think part of me's thinking, like, you know you know, I I wasn't completely sure what I wanted, I mean,
Mhm,
like I said, one of the things that I mean, obviously, I'm kinda, I think you sometimes regret stuff when you see other people are interested in it, so you sometimes you people want what they can't have.
mhm.
Maybe that's the thing, and I think, with you dating and stuff, and that's fine, like, I knew that would happen because I mean, we were together I mean, it's the longest relationship I've had since my marriage.
Right, same,
So,
same.
um, I knew some stuff would come up, but my brain works differently, like, I have some of the craziest dreams, so and they're always, like, somehow movie related, and they never my dreams never end up in a happy ending, they're always like really weird or weird
What's
endings. So
what does that mean?
I don't know.
Huh,
So I just thought
interesting.
that was funny. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't like regret it completely because I think something was off and I
Mhm.
needed to address it. But I also, I mean, I do miss what we had. I mean, I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things why I kind of wanted to kind of try to pursue a friendship, or at least having this podcast, which is I think an amazing kind of benefit, like almost like a therapy for us and a
Yeah.
therapy for other people. And I think other people can kind of see, like, hey, when people are happy together, sometimes just doesn't work out, and they can
Yeah.
kind of see like what happened. And I, I mean, if I can show anybody anything, it's like if two people have the right mindset, like you can move on from a relationship. Like I talked about having a healthy breakup. Like
Mhm.
that's important to me. I never knew that was possible, and it's nice, and it
Yeah.
is. It's like I mean, I can tell I'm a lot happier now, and like I'll text you, or we'll do stuff, but it's not like this like guideline, like, oh,
No.
like we feel pressured, oh, I gotta call her tonight or she's gonna be up. Like, no, it's like whenever we feel like
Oh,
it, we
yeah.
we we reach out to each other, and we
I
don't we don't.
I
And
agree. I feel like our relationship has weirdly gone to a much, like, better place, like, where we're spending a lot of time together. Like, we hang out a lot, and, we communicate better, and we don't have that, like I don't have any anxiety about, like, "Is he gonna call me? Is he gonna text me?"
right,
Because I'm like, "Whatever." Like, if he does, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. It's not a big deal. So and I think I was putting a lot of pressure on both of us because I was like it was my first relationship, really, because like, I dated before, but, like, it was a couple weeks or a week, that's not a relationship. So it was my first actual relationship outside of my marriage, and it was like I was expecting it to be as serious as, like, my marriage was, which it's not gonna be that quickly. That's just not how it works. And I think I was putting pressure on both of us, and so I was putting pressure on you, which you felt, and I was putting pressure on myself because I was like, "Why isn't he doing these things that I think he should be doing?" When it's like we just haven't reached that point yet, you know? So, I don't know, I feel a lot better about us. I feel a
yeah,
lot
it's
better
nice.
about our
It's
friendship, about just I don't know. I feel like we're in a really good place, and it's oddly healthy, if I don't know if you wanna call it healthy, but, like yeah. I just enjoy spending time with you.
it's fun. It's easy. There's
Yeah.
no pressure, nothing, and
Mhm.
do it. I mean, eventually, it's gonna come to a point where one of us is gonna meet someone, and then how does that friendship transition? And that's the important part too.
Yeah.
But like I said, until that time happens, we just enjoy this, and it's nice. And I think the
Totally.
having the podcast as a platform of just kind of showing where we're headed, and helping others, just outside of like the crazy stories, because we talked about it. We've had the crazy stories and stuff, but
Mhm.
like the two biggest viewerships for our podcast was the hard launch and the breakup,
Yeah.
because I think that was just about us. That was about like a relationship, or not a relationship. Rather, I
Right.
mean, the stories are fun and stuff. Everyone has their stories, but I think that was about like two people actually. They're listening to a relationship ending, and how are they gonna, or
Right.
starting then ending. And I think
Well, I
that's
think
interesting.
people
I
had
think people are very intrigued
questions
by
too.
that.
Like, people are just they're just everyone's intrigued by, like, why did they break up? And we went through step by step by step, and, like, it was good for us to figure out what was going on, but it was also, like, for people who wanna know because we
Yeah.
put it out there for everyone to we put everything out there,
What happens next? And that's
Right.
always exciting too.
Yeah. So, I don't know, it's been a fun adventure. That was a rough podcast to edit. It was hard. The
I can
beginning is
imagine.
is brutal. So,
This will be a better one,
oh,
because
yeah.
with Dan and Rachel, and and
Yeah.
what they kind of went through, and how, I mean, it was a lot. Like,
Mhm.
I usually don't say like but there was a lot. There was a lot of obstacles and hurdles,
Yes.
and the, they kind of stuck with it, and they kind of like
Mhm.
just you know what- I love the interview because we didn't really do much. They did all the
No.
talking, but I think that's the important part. And just how they kind of like saw each other in the beginning and gave it time, and weren't putting, because everyone has the rules and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
you always talk about, oh, I don't double text, or
Mhm.
I always say like, give me 2 or 3 days. If I don't get a response 2 or 3 days, but they kind of took their time and they realized, and and that's the thing because he didn't have kids and she had kids, and that dynamic sometimes doesn't work. But sometimes if you're patient enough, and and I always say like what the part that scares me when I am going to date someone without kids, I don't think they can concept the fact that they're never going to be number one.
Right.
Your kids are always going to be number
Yeah.
one. And I've had people be like, "Well, that's not fair to me." I'm like, "Well, that's that's how it is.
That's
My
part of
kids are my most
parenting.
important part of
Yeah.
my life right now."
Right.
Now, I always say, like, if you become a big part of my life, it could be the kids could be one, and you can possibly almost be like a 1A, like right there with them. And then,
Yeah.
but until
Not
then,
even though. The kids
it's,
are always gonna
yeah, they are. I
yeah.
just think that's a way to get people in bed. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
That
I
was a
just
joke. That was a
yeah, I
joke.
know.
I thought,
I feel like and I don't have a problem with dating people who don't have kids. I've
no,
dated a
no.
few
It
people
just,
who
I think sometimes, like, they don't, some people I've dealt with
it's
are really
perspective.
good with it. But if like a kid situation pops up, and they're understanding, but then sometimes if people are, some people don't,
Mhm.
and they're just like, is
Well,
this
it's
how it's
hard.
always?
It's hard when you don't have that perspective and you don't have that, like you think you understand, but you don't. It's hard to understand if you don't
Or
have,
even people with
you know
kids, like I've talked with women that their kids are older, like you,
Mhm.
but they didn't want to deal with me with still having young
There's a lot of
kids.
people who don't wanna deal with
Right,
that.
I'm say just say it up front. I remember
Right.
one, she was like, we were talking for about a couple weeks and we're setting up a date, and she knew right off the bat how old my kids were and stuff. And then in about 3 weeks, then it just became a problem, which is fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand why that wasn't a problem when we first started talking, but
Yeah. It could
maybe
have been that she just didn't, like she didn't know. Like,
yeah.
she knew, but she didn't really think
And
about
I
how to
also get
impact
a
things.
lot of backlash with women aren't happy with my the way I have a relationship with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
We're very civil and our families still get together. I know a
Mhm.
lot of times we talk like, "Oh, that's a green flag," but to a lot of, I think women that have gone through, not all, but I think ones that have gone through a rough breakup or divorce where their
Mhm.
husband just was just shitty to them, I think don't can't understand like how could you be friends with someone that you divorced, but
I think it's
we
also it's a like, insecurity thing if they don't have a lotta, like,
right.
solid self-esteem or they don't have that self-love or, things like that, that they're insecure, they get jealous easily, or they are not parents and they don't understand that relationship. So a lot of people who don't have kids, it's something they struggle with because they don't understand the dynamic that regardless of whether you have a good relationship or not, that person's gonna be in your life for the rest of your life because you have kids together. So, like,
Yeah.
you can either have a tough relationship where it's, combative and difficult, or you can try to work on having a healthy relationship, which is better for the kids. It makes your life easier, like and that's what you've done. You've maintained a healthy relationship with your ex so you can be a good dad and you guys can co-parent peacefully and not make it because that's tough for kids when their parents are fighting all the time.
Right.
Especially when they're divorced and they're fighting, and, like, that makes it harder, it creates more tension, it makes the split in general tougher on the kids, so, like, for you guys to have such a healthy relationship and have, the communication style that you do and the ability to see each other and not be weird about it, like, it's great for your kids, and
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. I mean, sure, that might make someone you're dating feel uncomfortable, your kids matter more,
Oh yeah.
you know? And that's something that's hard for some people to understand. I think for me as a mom, I get it. Like, if you didn't do that, I'd be like, no, maybe not him, you know?
And I haven't experienced this, but I've heard this also from other people. And you're into someone and she's into you and you guys are doing really good, and then when you meet the kids and then that dynamic isn't good, and then that's a scary, I hope I never have to deal with that.
Yeah.
I don't think my kids I don't think they would ever be like that. I mean, they're very open-minded,
You
like,
never know how you're gonna react
right,
to
but
someone,
I've
though. Like,
heard
if they get, like
situations where that, or that they love they had such a good relationship with the kids, but their relationship was deteriorating, but they stayed with it because they knew
yeah,
the kids would be happy, and that's
yeah,
just, and that's awful too. So there's a lot of dynamics with the kids, and that's why I come up front when I tell people, I'm like, I have kids. I don't want any more kids. And when I say I don't want any more kids, some people take it like, well, I have kids. I'm like, no, no, no. I just don't want any new kids.
yeah.
And then
I don't
I
wanna
always say, like, in
have
marriage,
babies.
I'm not down. I don't think I'm going to get married again.
Yeah,
It's not the door is not completely closed, but it's an idea where I'm bored with getting married again.
A
I
lot
think
of guys are like that.
Yeah, I think the only way it would work is if the person I'm with really wanted to get married again,
Mhm.
and we'd have to really talk about it and be like, "Is this what we really want?"
Right. Yeah.
And get a free vacation out of it.
I'm learning that a lot of guys who have been divorced, the guys who haven't been divorced are the guys who are pretty new out of a divorce, which I don't know, I tend to steer clear of guys who which is I'm such a hypocrite. I steer clear of guys who have been are newly divorced or separate. I don't do separated, which is again funny because I did it,
Yeah.
but I that's a red flag for me. I just don't. I'm so new at this. I don't need someone who's also new at you know. Just seems like a bad idea. I also think I just don't like anyone. So that's a problem. 'Cause I, like, literally went through, like, 200. I'm like, "Nope, nope, 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 not interested."
But I think that the dynamic with the dating app, it's got to be like 300 guys to like every. I don't know. I just feel like because I hear about the women's side and how they're just bombarded with messages and likes and
Mhm.
stuff. And on my side, like yeah, I'll have like 4 or 5 likes, but nothing like crazy.
Yeah.
And
No.
that would be insane just trying to go through something like that. But
But I'm cute, so
were you voguing or?
no, yeah. So, I don't know. I'm kidding too. I'm not saying that, like, I get more than everyone else. I don't think
But
I
I'm
do.
excited for this interview. I think the audience is gonna love this.
I think it's a really good episode to have after the breakup because the breakup was really depressing. Like, I think we turned it around towards the end and we got back to being
Yeah,
funny and stuff, but, like, I think it's a heavy subject. It's tough to talk about. It's tough to listen to sometimes too, and I think this is a happy story about how dating apps can work, and I think there's so much I saw a news article about how people are burnt out. They're like, there's dating app burnout right now because people are just like, it's the same shit over and over. So people are getting burnt out. People are kind of over it. There's a lot of negativity around it, but this is a story that shows that it can work and it can lead to like a beautiful I mean, I love their love. Like I love their relationship. They're one of my favorite couples. It can work. So this is proof that it can. And I'm excited for you guys to hear it. Two-parter, two parts. Yeah. So, next time we're gonna come back and I have a list of we had to re-record this too, by the way. So this is a little backwards. We had this whole intro recorded and it didn't record Max's part for some reason. I don't know why. So
didn't want
we're
to hear. It's like we've heard enough of his shit.
so it was really good, but we're just we kind of recreated it. I don't know, kind of took it in our own way, but that's what we do. So next time I'm gonna go over as our topic, I'm gonna go over the things that make me swipe left on a guy. The things that like standard things that I instantly see, I'm like, "Nope, not even gonna give him a chance." Like, "No, thank you." So, we'll go through that next time. Maybe you should do the same. Maybe you should come up with things that make you instantly say no. Do you
Yeah,
have anything?
there's not a lot.
Oh, really? So, what I saw in this article is that, like, a lot of guys swipe right on everyone to increase their chances,
I've
and
heard that, but I
that's why
don't.
there's
Yeah,
so many people wasting people's time.
right. They just because they want to feel loved.
Mhm,
I like. I look at a photo and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's fake. And then you keep seeing them and they look like staged photos
mhm,
with no one in there. I don't do that. I don't like people that put their kids in photos. I
mhm.
think that's. But I mean, if it's not your kid, they're like, oh, that's my niece or nephew. Still, you
Still.
don't want to do that.
Yeah,
And just I mean, I obviously if you're attracted to them or not, like yeah, I'll read the profile too and be like, oh, cool, something like, oh, wow, she grew up around the same town, or if I see something interesting, you can kind of work with it. But yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of. I can kind of tell like the fake ones.
yeah,
Not all of them, but sometimes you get sucked in and you're like, oh yeah, this is fake. But there's just certain ones. I think the more I've done it, the more picky I am, and
yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know. And even like I told you, like location, right? So if it's like in
Mhm.
the city or something, I usually don't click on it.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
and a lot of the scams will have like instead of saying Naperville, it'll say like Naperville Park District.
Mhm.
And so I think that's like a sign of like kind of a
Oh,
scam.
no, because I've seen that before too, and it's been real people.
Yeah, and then they're like
So
it's weird, like weird parts of the city or parts that I've like never heard of, and I'll like have to Google 'em.
mhm.
I'm like, what? Yeah, I just I just if she looks nice and the profile kind of looks good, I'll I'll do it. But I'm very picky now, so
Were you picky 5 months ago? Say
yeah, I
yes.
think I was picky.
What made you I don't know if you remember, but what made you click on me? Like, what made you swipe right?
I saw your picture, I was like, wow, yeah. I just like I joined Match for the hell of it. I was like, I never
Yeah.
do Match, and I was just bored one night. I was like, ah, what the hell, I'll do it. And so then we matched kind of quickly, and then just the conversation started going, and then
You're stuck with me. We're not even dating, and you're stuck with me. You're like, "Man, she's still here." I broke up with her.
so
So,
yeah, that's my
yeah,
story, and I'm sticking to it.
sure. Yeah, but that's our update. Nothing dramatic. I mean, we're just good. We're cool. Like, we're hanging out, we're friends, we're I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
What's
We're
the
just,
Fonz like?
"Hey."
He's cool.
Yeah.
The old Pulp Fiction line.
Yeah.
What's the Fonz like? What's the Fonz like? He cool.
Anyway, coming up next is Rachel and Dan. Again, we're gonna make this a two-parter, so it'll probably cut off, like, in the middle after their dating experiences, and then, the next episode will pick up in the beginning of their interview, and we'll be back with a normal episode in 2 weeks. 3
Happy
weeks?
4th of July,
Yeah, happy 4th of July.
America.
Bye. All right, we would like to welcome Rachel and Dan to the No Dick Pics podcast. Welcome you to Newlywed
Welcome.
Lovebirds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Rachel and I have known each other for a long time.
Bus stop.
Like,
How long?
Like we shared the same bus stop
yeah,
since
it was
like
my house.
elementary school.
Yeah. Yeah, so you live like a block away from me, right?
Yeah, I had to cut through the backyards to get
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah. So, you guys just got married. So congratulations. It was a beautiful wedding where I
Thank you.
caught the bouquet and
Yes.
then my boyfriend
Yes.
broke up with me.
Well, we
I didn't get that memo, but
Yeah, and the guy that caught the garter, they got engaged. So there you
Yeah,
go.
so
50% success rate.
I'm doing it wrong.
yeah, it was awesome. Like a couple weeks later, he told us at the wedding he was gonna propose, and then I threw the garter and turned around and wasn't trying to throw it to him. I turned around, he's got it, waving around his head. And a couple weeks later, we're at the Cubs game, and he proposed to his girlfriend, and yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
that's nice.
So Rachel, were you aiming for me?
No, well, I mean, initially I was like hoping it wasn't the kids. So I was trying to aim away from the kids because I felt like if one kid got it and another didn't, it was going to be a huge ordeal. But
totally.
then the DJ threw me off because he said, "Okay, we're gonna like bake it," And then he was like, "And then the next time you're gonna throw it on too." So that like ruined my entire plan. And then I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing."
I love the video. I don't think I've shown you the video.
I haven't seen anything.
I like snatch it. Like,
Meanwhile, the
mine.
boys were vicious.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the first thing I saw when I turned around was somebody throwing Ben into the air,
yeah.
and I assumed he got it. And then and I don't even know.
Yeah. So it was a really fun wedding. Max could not go because he had shingles. So
Oh yeah.
yeah. And that's how I met Amber, who was our guest a couple weeks ago, and just a circle.
She has some
She
interesting stories.
did.
I was just gonna say that we see some stuff. She kind of shares some things on Facebook, and
Yeah.
told us some things, and yeah, it's
Did you listen, Dan?
no, I did not. No,
You should.
I need to go on there. I need to go on here and listen. I don't
Yeah.
use the podcast listeners. So, yeah.
She had some great stories. Probably our spiciest episode we've ever had. So, well, I don't know what you guys are about to say. So
Well,
who
I'm
knows?
not shocked.
I don't have any like crazy. I don't think any of mine will top it. Well, maybe one part of one, but yeah. That's it.
Yeah. So if you guys have stories you want to share,
Well, like I said, I'll start. I mean, I think for me, it was, I did not know what I was getting into when I started on the apps. I was
Same.
newly like getting divorced, and I had come off of a really like challenging time where my former husband was very very ill for a long time, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was raising these two little girls, and we'd been married for a very long time. I got married for the first time at 23. So when I dated before, it was all in the wild. There was
Mhm.
no apps, there was no like anything. It was like you went out and you met somebody, and like that's just how it was. So this was, completely brand new. And at first, you get all these like likes and swipes, and you think, oh, this is gonna be like so easy. Like everybody is just like wants to talk to you. And then you realize how creepy they are
Yeah.
and how many like people have issues, and how many people like say one thing and like do another. But I went in very naive, um and like proceeded to have some of like the craziest worst dates ever. um I think like one of my very like first dates that I went out with, like we went out, we met for drinks, everything was good. He looked a little bit different than what his pictures were, but people had warned me about that, so that wasn't like the biggest shock. But I think we ordered a drink and had dinner, and he like pays for the tab and then says that will be the last drink that I ever buy because I do not pay for alcohol. And if you ever want to have another drink, then you can buy all of your own drinks, but I do not pay for your
What?
alcohol.
That's weird.
So
What?
that was date one.
Okay. Okay. That's a
So
great start.
so
Could be worse.
apparently his theory was, people waste so much money on that. Of course he could drink and he could, order anything that he wanted. But
Okay.
if I wanted anything like that, I was supposed to like pay for, he was like, I am such a gentleman. I will pay for every date, pay for everything that we do, but not any alcohol.
How old was he? Was he older, younger?
He was older. So at this point, I had really only dated people that were, mostly my age or older, because I felt like I've got these two little kids. Like I have
Mhm.
kind of a serious situation. I was like, I don't know that a younger guy is going to really like understand or have the same experiences or things like that. So um, I guess that was my mistake. I went older, the same age. Um, so on and on it went. And then I had, some great dates like that, just like, but then, thought everything was like going well. And I was like, oh, I really like this person, or I'm really vibing with this person. And then they would proceed to tell me like how they have no car and they live with their mom.
So common.
And hey, I know I met you like in Bolingbrook, and you live like near Aurora, and I live in Joliet. So I took an Uber, and I really don't want to pay for the Uber. So could you drive me back to my mom's house so that
What?
I don't have to pay the surge pricing?
No.
Oh yeah.
Wow, you picked some good ones.
So what app were you on?
I started on Hinge because everybody said, "Oh, that's got to be the one that, you start with because that's for the more serious people, and they have um what's their like motto, like it's designed to be deleted or whatever." So I thought, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a serious person, I'm going to be on Hinge." And then then once I realized like I had either like cycled through everyone, like in the sense that, we weren't connecting, or I'd gone out with them, or they got weird once we started talking. I was like, oh, I'm going to download these other apps. And then I realized it was just the same people on all of
Oh
the
yeah,
apps. But
that's happening to me right now.
so eventually I was on Match, and then Bumble.
Mhm.
And I think I tried like when coffee meets bagel, it was supposed to be this like other like rare one, but then nobody's on that one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
that
tried that too because
yeah.
it seemed different, and it
Yeah,
was there was nothing different about it.
right. I
Yeah.
did not
Yeah. I'm
do
gonna open this can real
Facebook.
quick. Don't mind my can.
No
Okay,
worries.
there we go.
I never tried Facebook because at that time I actually wasn't on Facebook. I had gotten off of Facebook
Yeah.
for a couple of
Yeah, you
years.
disappeared for like a while.
Yep, I disappeared for a long time, and I actually think it was the best piece of advice my divorce lawyer ever gave me, which he said, "I will not represent you if you are on social media." And he
Really?
said, the reason is that nothing bad can happen to you for anything that you don't do. But all it takes is for somebody to like, even if I was like, well, I'm not going to post, I'm not going to. And he said, all it takes is somebody to, tag you in something, post you doing something, post a picture of you. You never know like what could be used against you. And
Yeah.
he said, not to say it's ever going to happen, but he's like, we've had very like amicable divorces that go, to a really dark place. And he said, I just tell every single one of my clients, if you're on social media, I'm not going to represent you. And I think it was the
Yeah.
best piece of advice I ever got.
You don't you think you know how people are gonna react to things until you go through it, and then you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, people are capable of anything." Like, people you thought would never do like, certain things to you, like, will do it 'cause it's divorce is nasty sometimes, even when you don't think it's gonna be. It's like people surprise you, and it's a fun time. So that's probably good advice. I did not do that.
And it protected me, I think, in a lot of ways because
Yeah,
I
well,
think
you
I
had,
was,
like, custody stuff too, so
well, not even that, but I think I was just in a very vulnerable, like emotional place. And my life had completely changed. Like I said, I had gone from being a stay-at-home mom to, married very young to, I had just moved back to Chicago from North Dakota.
Mhm.
And, then the pandemic hit, but I had all of these mom friends and I lived in this neighborhood and I I think it protected me in a lot of ways because I didn't have to hear about like what anybody had to say. And I got to make decisions for myself without all of that influence and without feeling shame or without feeling the need to explain anything, without feeling the need to like justify anything. Like I just proceeded to like live my life. And I think that, it forced people that really wanted to be in my life to find me, by either like
Right.
digging out my number and texting me or calling me or you know, whatever. It prevented me from ever saying anything that was like negative, that like if I was ever like upset emotionally about things. And I think when I came back to social media, I was able to do it in a much more like healthy way. Um,
Mhm.
and I think the other thing that it protected me from was honestly like in this dating. There would be so many people that'd be like, you know what, I tried to find you and you're like a ghost. You don't exist anywhere. And I was like, good. 'Cause I didn't want them knowing where I lived. I didn't want them
Yeah.
knowing, I never want them even knowing like my kids, ages. I would say I have elementary aged girls, but that was what I left it at. I didn't want them knowing, the exact, place I lived or where I worked or anything like that because you never know like who is out there.
Yeah. That's smart.
That's why I think it's weird. Like a red flag for me is when I'm on a dating app and they have a picture of their kids on there, and I'm just like, why would you even like put that out there? So
Absolutely. I had one guy that I went on a date with actually, and this was maybe one of the scariest dates. But I could just tell that he was way too interested in knowing about my children. And it was just like this
Creepy.
feeling that I had, and I can't describe it, but it was one of those like that. I'm not saying that that's the case, but like that mama gut instinct, just something felt
Oh, you have to
very
listen to it.
wrong. And just like wanting to know like what they liked and what their personalities were, and like
Oh,
if they had access to phones and computers. And yeah, so, that was actually like later on into like my dating experience, but even before that, I just decided I'm not putting any pictures of them out there. I'm not going to show anybody what they look like. Nobody needs to know. I just said I had elementary age girls, and if I ever got a little bit more serious, I would tell them certain things, but at a very like very broad 10,000-foot level.
that's smart.
Well, yeah, when it
Yeah.
came to that too, even I dated and talked to many women with kids and everything, but that was always the thing. It's like you don't want to sound not interested, but then it's like you don't want to like ask, put them in the position to even like talk a lot about them, like because that's for later on, like if things are going well. So it's kind of like one of those things. Even when I was talking to her, when she would say something about doing something with the kids, I'd always just bring it back to her, like, oh, that's great, you know, and then leave it up to, her and kind of our situation, before you bring kids into it, but I think that is sometimes another red flag, like when they, you know, want to introduce the kids like right away, like, it's because I did
Yeah.
have one like that, but then, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because that was another thing. I never wanted somebody to be like, I heard so many stories of like, well, I started dating again and I really fell in love with their kids. And, they weren't right for me, but it was because of the kids. And I never wanted that to be the case either.
Yeah. How long did it well, I guess we can get to this. I'll save it for later when we talk about you guys.
Well, my,
I have a feeling I know what the question is.
I
You
guess I
do.
go to like the beginning of my
Yeah.
dating
Yeah.
story
Because you're in
after that,
divorce
'cause-
much longer than I was.
yeah, I was kind of like her. We didn't get married right away, but I was with my ex-wife from the time we were like, I was 21 and I don't know, she was like 19 or something like that.
Oh wow.
So we kind of met, a couple years before. And this is a funny part of the story. I met my ex-wife at Chili's, and turns out after we met, like, in the first like couple weeks, turns out we both worked together at Chili's, me and her, at the same
Really?
Chili's that I met my ex-wife, but we didn't really know each other, different circles and stuff. Like we worked together and just didn't even remember that. So that was kind of like funny story that, I met she didn't even work there. She came in with a girlfriend, my ex-wife, and she left me her number, and all this. And so yeah, we worked together for 10 years and, then got divorced. And so I was divorced for about 5 years or so, before we met. And so I didn't date right away coming out of it. But then the first ones I went on to, just like her, I was like, okay, eHarmony, you hear all about that, it's like a serious one. So I go on there and, I don't want to, I actually got the least amount of honesty, I think, on the eHarmony.
Really?
That's what it seemed like, because you talk to all these, women, and it just didn't seem, I went on the first date and she looked, doesn't matter about the pictures, but, she didn't look anything like your pictures. And then, she was, cool, but then I had this inkling that she wasn't even the age she said she was. And I don't know, everything was just
Like
really weird.
older or younger?
Younger. So, and that didn't matter to me either, but I'm like, just, it seemed off. Like everything that she had on there and like kind of what we texted and talked about, we got together and nothing, seemed right. And then a couple other women I talked to, but the first actual, like, date, out of there was, actually somebody older than me. And, we went on a date and, everything was going well. And I'm out there, cause I'm not kind of like a one night stand kind of guy or anything. And so, I'm into it and feeling like she's into the, getting to know each other and all this stuff. And then it gets so good that after dinner we're at the, the Saddle Room. I don't know if you guys know that place. Kind of like the Turf Room, if you ever heard of that.
Oh
But,
yeah.
they got like a whiskey section and everything. So, went late there and then we started talking about, shows, and she found out I never saw Breaking Bad. So she's like, well, why don't we just go watch it? You come back, I live right over here. So we get over there and, um,
I know what that's code for.
You've
and I'm,
seen 5 minutes of Breaking Bad, right?
well, the funny thing is we get there and she's like, well, the DVD player is not really working out here in the living room. The only one working is in the bedroom. And I'm like,
Sure.
oh, okay, like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not naive. I mean, I kind of know what's going on, but it's like I had, since my divorce or even separated from my ex-wife, I hadn't gone even that far to go over somebody else's house or anything like that. So it was just a little, just kind of, and then you realize it's like, oh, there are, women out there who are looking for that. Cause after all that happened, the next day I'm like, okay, we did hit it off and all this stuff, but then she kind of just didn't really want to talk too much anymore after that. Um, but
Max is
yeah,
like, what's her number?
Yeah, I
that,
mean, no,
yeah,
but
she
the
was
thing with
this
yeah,
teacher
yeah,
from Spain, and I guess she, it was kind of, because I was like, wait, but she's like, she was like this model from over there,
Right.
the teacher,
Okay.
and I'm like, okay, but she didn't seem like she was, like that, but she was very beautiful, pretty, all that stuff. Um, but anyway, it's like you don't even think about that, I guess sometimes, getting back into the dating world that can actually happen. And then, I guess another funny dating story out of that was, I went out with this one girl who had pictures from probably like 15 years before, we even went on our date or something, from way long time ago, nothing like it. And
Was this a loud
the
one?
loud one, yeah. We went out and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's screaming at me, like. And tried to talk softer, like just I'm like, well, maybe if I talk softer, he'll talk a little softer and kind of just like match my tone. But I think she got louder because I think she was like, oh, well, maybe I can't hear him, so he must not be able to hear me. And then that was the one where I think everybody in the restaurant could hear what she was saying in the conversation. And this one old lady walks by, and because I'm thinking like, well, this isn't, this first and last date. And this old lady walks by, she's like, are you guys on a first date? And she's like, I can just tell with a lot of people. She's like, I can tell you guys have something special, maybe, like this could lead to something. I'm like, oh.
He's like, I'm about to tell her in the parking lot. Yeah, I'm not going to see her
Have
again.
a second date.
Sounds like a Jersey girl.
Oh my gosh.
I had one like that though. Like I was on this date with this guy, and again, this was probably like the lesson of when I learned not to talk to people too long before going on the date, because I think you either run out of things to talk about, or you can really like them so much that you are kind of blinded to like thinking about what else is going on. So I had met this person on Bumble, and the pictures were like good, and everything else, and but then we had talked a lot on the phone, and we had this like great connection and like everything, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is just like everything's vibing. Like I think he had a daughter like kind of similar to my kids' ages. Again, like we kind of never really talked about it, but just from what I could surmise, and I just thought like, oh, like this is really great. It seemed to have like a similar experience, kind of like same type of job, and show up on the date, and he is definitely not like his pictures, because they were probably from 15 years before, and lots had changed. And he is showing up with sweatpants and a hole in his sweater, and it was like, and of course it's like Valentine's weekend, and I had already been like, I don't want to do this, but it kind of talked me into it. And we're sitting there, and I like can't wait to like leave, and I'm like trying to get like through it as fast as possible without being mean. Because I was kind of like, well, I did enjoy talking to him, and now, even though I know that it's not going to work out, like I want to at least like, I didn't want to be rude. Like I didn't feel like anything was like unsafe or anything like that.
Right.
Just, and this is when we still had masks in, the restaurants. So you would, wear the mask to the table, take it off, and then, put it back on. So we're getting up to leave. And of course I'm putting that mask on like so fast because I don't want him like to like try to kiss me or anything. Right. And of course this like couple like across that had been sitting like across from us the whole time at dinner says, like, excuse me, like, I just have to tell you, you're just so beautiful, and you just have the best smile. And I could just tell, like, you guys are really gonna, like, go far. And I'm, like, thinking, oh, no. And it was, like, the ammunition he needed. And I'm like, no, please.
Not
Like,
the
any
stand-up
other time
sweatpants.
somebody would have said that to me, I would have been so happy. And I'm just dying. I'm like, no.
When she told me that, I was like, wait, we have, like, kind of that same thing.
Oh.
It's like the old lady. I was like, you just made this 10 times harder for me. But,
So
Yeah.
if someone says you guys are cute, that's like a death
Yeah.
sign. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
Anyone
think
said that to us.
But
I
you
think
kept
what I
saying that.
didn't realize, like going into it, was I had heard about ghosting. I like kind of like knew what it was, but I didn't really realize like what it was. And I think that was like the biggest wake up call for me. My worst ghosting story was I had a guy that went with me on a business trip and ghosted me. And like after the business trip, which was like so crazy and horrifying in its own ways.
I think
So,
you told me this.
yeah. So
Like at one of our girls' dinners.
so I went out with this guy, and he was like really like nice, and he was like so like gentlemanly, and he was always like, oh, I'll come out, that way. And he lived kind of far. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's like, this is so nice. And he's so caring, and he seemed to be like so understanding. And we were talking a lot, and we had, a lot, and he was always like very like curious about wanting to know things about me. And it was like, no red flags like up until this point. And I had told him that I was going on this business trip, and I was new to this job and just starting to travel for work. And I said, I'm really uncomfortable about like who, I have to like work with on this business trip. And I said, I just get a weird vibe, about it. And he's like, you know what? I have a friend that is in this location, and I could like fly out there and I could go like hang with my friend. And then you could say, to this like, coworker, like, oh, you like, that your boyfriend is like down here. And, so then that will kind of like protect you from that. And, I don't even have to stay but with you, but I could do this. And I was like thinking, oh my gosh, like this is so nice. And proceeds to, we flew like down there on separate, flights and met. And then, the next thing I know, like I have a rental car and he doesn't have a rental car and his friend is nowhere to be found. And, he all of a sudden
Oh,
needs a place to stay and he needs me to drive him around. And all of that and wants to go, wants to spend all of this time. So here I am working and, I've got now this person that I'm responsible for who's criticizing, everything about my like driving to, and I drive
no.
all across the country. Like I travel every month for work, like,
Yeah.
um, and didn't like, the hotel that I picked and didn't like the room that I was in and all of this. And I mean, I was already feeling like, okay, like, I don't know that this is really going to go, anywhere after this. But we had separate flights back because, his friend was going to take him to the airport. So I like have to, he wakes me up at like 3 a.m. because he needs to go catch his flight. And I've got to drive him an hour to the airport so that I can come back and, sleep and then get, work and catch my flight later in the day because I still have, appointments and things to do.
Yeah.
And, drop him off at the airport and never heard another word from him again.
Wow.
He just wanted a vacation.
Yes.
Just went on a trip.
Right. Yeah. On my like, supposed expense account, which I think what was funny is like that one of the things is that makes me laugh though is that I'm in compliance for a living. So when I have my expense account, it's like to the book, like
Yeah.
I am not putting anyone, and I think he realized real like that he probably picked the wrong person to do that with.
That's crazy.
I was like, oh, my company will pay for my dinner, but you're going to have to pay for
Right.
your dinner, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a business trip.
Right.
I think
I think ghosting is just people don't. I mean, they're just I don't know lazy, but it's just like they don't want confrontation, so they just like well if I don't talk to the person, and you see it a lot. Like, even when the people like you have a connection with, and then it's like next thing you know, it's just like boom. And I have
Right.
kind of like a 3 day rule. After 3 days, if I don't hear from you, I'm like, all right,
well,
move
that's how
on.
I always was, and I always got such strange reactions the few times that because I had a few longer term you know relationships that I wanted to from meeting online, and long story short, went through a few different apps, and Bumble and Facebook dating I actually found to be um, the best quality. You get people who really want to like talk and really close to like what they're saying that they want and everything. But I always, if that ever happened, I met somebody and I wanted to focus on them, I would, even the people I was still on the app with or texting or even maybe in the dating world, I'd seen them a few times. I made sure to like message them all back and just say, hey, so they didn't think I was just forgetting about them. I'm like, this is what's
Yeah.
going on. You're probably not going to hear from me, anymore. I'm focusing on this, and then that's the other
I'm going
surprising
through this
thing.
right now.
That's the really surprising thing getting in the dating world, not only for me in it, but then like to go on dates with women and hear some of these things like, wait, guys do this? Like even the name of the
Huh?
podcast, I'm like, that actually happens? I heard of it like as a joke. I didn't know this like actually happened, like
Oh,
Yeah, he
all the
asked me,
time.
it's,
how
I'm
many
like,
dick pics did you get? I was like, multiple a week. He was like, what? I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I have an entire album. Like, would you like to see? And it was like all the people that probably should not be getting those pictures because like I would be
You have
so
really bad
embarrassed.
ones too? Like,
Oh,
you
no,
thought
I
that was a
always
good picture?
I mean, I didn't get really any good ones, but I definitely like the worst ones. Like yeah, I definitely it's called my little wiener folder.
oh,
Um,
I thought you just meant like bad lighting or something. I thought the production
That's
was
crazy
good.
because I think that's the difference between, especially like men and women, like especially on the dating apps. Like she showed me her phone, and she was like had like 86 likes. I was like I don't know. For me, it's like you connect with a couple people and you might get like 5 or 6 likes, but never like bombarded. And so then I'm starting to think like, is it like truly like for like it's like what 300 guys for like one woman? Like I feel like that's like the numbers.
Hmm.
It's just insane.
I'm really cute too, though. So
Yeah.
Well, that was it. I actually had um, women tell me that what intrigued them about my profile is I didn't put my best pictures on there. I put real, just every day. And some
Mine
cool ones
too,
on.
I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just everyday stuff, and then maybe
No
a
fish
vacation picture.
pictures.
Yeah,
No
no fish.
fish. No fish.
did you have a fish picture? Because I
No.
don't know.
I think I was out to dinner. Maybe there was a piece of fish on my plate. Like it was tasty or something, but I wasn't holding up the
No, you had
flag
he
and
had
all
he had a picture of him like kind of just like individually kind of maybe like leaning against a deck like with a nice background. I think he had a picture of him like golfing, not actively golfing, like like with a golf club maybe and like a hat and whatever. I think that there was a picture of
The
dinner.
golfing pics are popular too.
And then I think
It was
that
actually a really nice backdrop
yeah,
in
he was in
Mexico. I
Mexico.
was like, oh, I
Yeah.
got to get a
Oh,
picture of
nice.
him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think it was like you on a boat, and then picture maybe a dinner, and then like one like that I found out later was just like close up in his house, and I think I had like the
And
same.
I made that my cover one because I put like just the one me lounging on the couch,
Yeah.
like just taking that as my first
Yeah.
one, because I didn't. And then I also had women are like your profile, like your what do you call it, summary or
Yeah.
whatever you call
Yeah.
it. They're like you didn't like talk really about yourself. You talked about like how you view life, and I'm like, yeah, because I don't need to talk about it. We do that on the date, like do this all about life. So I think that helped get a lot more like interaction because they're like, well, what the heck, he's doing this. He's not like saying any of this, like the other ones. I tried to make mine just intriguing, I guess, and
Yeah.
I was hoping that was going to help find some. I did meet some really good women, but then a lot of them might have agreed with that, maybe wanted to think about, all these things about, life and different things. Doesn't mean everyone has to agree on everything, but then it always comes out, in there, you have 3 months, 6 months, if it's not matching, and that was happening a lot,
Yeah.
yeah.
Same. I mean, I think for mine, I actually got a dating like app coach.
Did
um,
you?
And I
I
think
can't
it was the best thing
remember.
I ever did. And it was the same thing. I put very real pictures. It was all none with my kids, none in bikinis, none in anything like that. I mean, it was, like, good pictures that I had within the last year of
Mhm.
whatever. Like, I didn't do play Find Waldo, like, where's Waldo? And like put a
Oh
bunch of
yeah.
people in it because I think
Those are
that's
the worst.
crazy. So,
Yeah.
but it was like some close ups, some like more at a distance, some where you could really like, like definitely where you could at least like see, okay, like my, basically what I looked like, in different, scenarios, but like not this like crazy, like, oh, I went and got, this, photo shoot. And then I also like kept everything very like vague as well. Like I did put
Yeah, I
on
love
there
your
like single mom, like, because in one part of it, because I felt like that if somebody was really against that, that they should have that information up front.
Mhm.
But other than that, it was like very ambiguous. It was things that actually what the dating coach helped me with was putting things on your profile that are true, but that will elicit conversation in a way that you will find out if they actually A, read your profile, and B, like if they can talk to you about what's on it. Because anything that I put, we should be able to have a conversation about. Like one of the things that I put on there was like one of the prompts, it was like, you know, what would you bring with you to a date? I was like, oh, like golf clubs because I'm just like learning or something like that. And like the dating coach is like, that should prompt somebody to be like, oh, well, let's plan this type of a date. Everybody says, oh, I love dogs and, I love,
Right.
yeah, the basic
rainbows
stuff
and,
there.
clouds and,
Yeah.
whatever. And they're like, so you have to find things that will like distinguish you and like make people want to like have conversations with you. Or like, well, they, a lot of times they said people, why you get the hi, 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 is because people don't know what to say. So you have to like put things in there that will like elicit conversations, like to give them either an idea for a date or something that they want to know more about. And I think I
Yeah.
did that because
Oh
actually
yeah.
I need
that
to
was
write
like
this
what you
down.
talked to me about when
Are
we
you
first
taking
met.
notes?
I gotta take notes. This is good.
Well,
We
that's what,
saved our profiles
yeah, we
because I
did.
was like,
That's
I
what,
spent
Did
good
you?
money
I
on
want to
this.
see them.
yeah,
Send them to me.
they're, oh yeah, we
We
will.
will.
Because that's something, I was like that, with like, cause I wanted to send out this stuff, mention something from the profile that excited me, but also either say something, not like, crazy weird, but like just something unique too that, would, and if all I got back was like, hi, and doesn't mention anything about what I just said, then I'm like, all right, my energy's already gone from this one, and,
Right.
you need that energy back and forth. That's why Bumble I thought was amazing.
Well,
I think I was
obviously.
going to say, yeah. So, that's obviously, where we met on Bumble. Cause I love that, the women have to, choose to start the conversation, because that's everything that was disappointing me so much, that not having good conversation. And I think I got the best conversations on Bumble, from anybody I talked to, most people I talked to on there.
Even though like you did have like red flags to me on his
No.
profile, but I
Really? What were
Oh,
they?
this is funny.
so this was so I had all these bad experiences, and like some
Yeah.
like far worse, like the guy that like put his tongue in my ear in the middle of the day and like
Oh.
tested my bruised easily, and or
Oh no.
shoved me up against the wall, to kiss me when I made it clear I didn't.
I mean,
Uh,
that's like,
Anybody sits next to you like on a first date, like out the gate, like red flag, like get away, because they will put
I
their
had
tongue in
that.
you.
I had that because I told her, one of the women I dated, like she always wanted to sit on the same side, and I never experienced that before, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is a little odd.
It makes it
But
hard to talk.
I know,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I mean, when your tongue's in their ear, you don't have to talk.
Oh, true.
Easier to get your tongue in here, I guess.
Right. But
yeah,
I was talking to my therapist about this, and I said, I have just had, I'm like, it's just so frustrating, because I said I had always put that I was like looking for, a relationship, and not like in the sense that I was necessarily looking to get married, but I had a very serious situation. So I should mention, like, in the time that I had started dating and obviously taken breaks and was going through my divorce, my former husband became very, very ill and was diagnosed with terminal cancer and was dying essentially. And I was facing like, do I just like say, not, I'm never going to find anybody that would want to be with somebody in this situation where they're going to have, these two elementary aged girls, full time, they don't go away to their dads, or they, things like that. And obviously like a very emotional experience. Or do I just say like it's not for me, and maybe I'll date when they're graduated and they're out of the house, or do I just kind of try, and that's kind of like where I was at with my therapist, and she said, I just think you should always keep it open, because you never know. And but I said, I'm putting on there that I'm looking for a relationship, and like I said, not looking necessarily to get married, but I knew that the situation was very serious, and that it was going to take somebody that was not just looking for something casual, because that wasn't going to be me, and I didn't have the time. And if I was going to like leave my children to go and see them and get a babysitter or whatever I had to do, I wasn't going to waste it on somebody that was, not, really that interested in me. And
Right.
she said to me, have you ever thought about like trying the people that say that they are looking for something casual? And I was like, no, like that's horrifying. Like I just told you, like that is never what I would want to do. And she said, well, it seems like all the people that say they're looking for a relationship are lying. So she said, at least those people are honest. And she said, maybe you don't go into it like thinking about even trying to find a relationship. Like maybe you go and you try to find friends, and you try to just see if you can have like good connections, and maybe
But
you use it as an experience to like get, take your mind off of some of this stuff and like get away. And like maybe if it is casual and there isn't this pressure, you will like approach things differently on dates. And then she said, I also think that you should like, be open to younger people, because she said, obviously like what you're doing is not working. So I
shit.
adjusted my filters, and Dan popped up, and here he was looking for something casual and younger. And So I remember seeing it and I just debated, oh my gosh, like, do I swipe? Do I not? Like, what do I do? And I like remember like closing my eyes and just like swiping right. And, you
Well,
know,
that was the funny thing
Wow.
is, about that my whole time throughout all the years, never could I ever think to put me down as casual because I did know, I was wanting to looking to meet somebody on a level looking to have a long term, thing. Marriage was not top of my head, but it was like, let's see, and then that could lead to it, down the road. And I had just gotten out of like in the past year, probably one of my more serious relationships. That's a kind of funny story how it ended. There was a lot of red flags within it, but it was just kind of like all, I think more, I don't know, just fun energy stuff, and it was just kind of like flowing that way, and it might have blinded me to some of the red flags. Anyway, long story short, the reason why we were going to try to like a trial like move in together, so she came over for a weekend and like just to live there, for a weekend. And I think through the week, I can't remember what day, but I go to work. Yeah, that's why, because I go to work on this one day and I come home and my whole house is like rearranged. Like things are rearranged in the house, furniture. And I'm like, not that, and
pictures on the wall. I
yeah,
mean,
and to be honest with you, I probably liked a lot of it. I was like, oh, it was, it
Thank you.
startled
It's
me,
good.
but I actually could agree, like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that, and that looks good, and it actually was a lot of good improvements, and but it was still in my head, like, who just like rearranged your like my
No,
house,
that's
not
well,
weird.
she
just
was
like,
supposed to be looking for a job.
yeah.
Right. Like,
Well, she had a job, but she was looking for
like a
something
closer job.
closer to
Yeah.
where, because she
Yeah.
was in Chicago and and all that, but um so yeah, that, but still, as much as I liked that, I was like, wow, if this isn't like the weirdest freaking thing, like, not to say
No, that's
it
super.
wouldn't have been our house, and I would never make her feel like, oh, it's not both of our houses or something like that. But just like the first time you, get over there, like live there, you're just gonna do this, and I come home to this, and then it turned into this whole fight in the bedroom. I'm like, the one thing I don't want to, like, out of everything you just did, I just don't want to get a bigger TV. Like the TV is a little thing in the corner. I don't want it to be like the focus of anything. And I was like, that's all I ask, and it turned into this huge thing. And anyway, it was done after that, obviously, like I was
Well, the
able to go
best
back.
part she said is like, if you won't buy a new TV for us to have in the bedroom, like I'm out. And he was like,
Right.
cash her out.
Take you back to the train station.
And he took her back to the train station.
So that, oh, now I got caught up in the story and I forgot why I was telling it. So it had so many situations, not exactly like that. There was definitely a couple little crazy, things, nothing like, scary or anything. But I was just so fed up with, like, after so many months, like, of these few serious relationships, people not, kind of like getting away from, having that understanding to kind of like understand you and understand I mean, understand them. And that's all I wanted was, it doesn't mean everything's gonna be perfect. Let's like try to understand the other person, in any of these, and not just like have no like empathy for the other person, and that would always come out. And that's what gets me back to the whole casual thing. I was just maybe a couple weeks before she swiped on me, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna stop, concentrating on this. I'm just gonna put casual on here, and if there's some casual conversation, whatever we're doing. So it wasn't like most people think casual. It's like, no, I'm not putting casual like let me meet a bunch of women and just like go out and have one night stands. So it was just like casual as I don't want you to think that I'm going to put a whole lot of effort into this right now. It's not my main focus. But it's something, keeping it open. Just I didn't want to miss out on a connection.
Well, and casually in the sense that like you were seeing like someone else like casually when you met me.
Yeah. We would only see each other on like weekends. We go out for a date, but hadn't even been over to, each other's houses or anything.
Yeah. So just like not like the main focus.
Mhm.
And that's what my therapist said too, is like, you really like need to make this like not the main focus, which, I wasn't, but she's like, it doesn't need to be, something that, you're open to. And so it really just changed my mindset. So like I said, I closed my eyes and swiped right. And then
Join us next week for part 2 of Rachel and Dan's love story. In the meantime, don't forget to rate and review us. Please follow us on social media. You can follow us on Instagram at NoDPixPod. You can follow us everywhere else at NoDPixPod. If you follow us on Facebook, a video version of this podcast will be posted shortly. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.